in which he physically and psychologically stripped himself to the core. This is several circles.
Okay.
Villages languish in strange desolation. Women bear themselves with and without inhibition, and lovers intertwine in privileged pictures of intimacy. But the face of Egon Schiele's practice is really his own, ruddy and reflexive, at times pensive and forgiving, at others twisted and tormented, extending from an emaciated body, which he cruelly contorts and coldly examines from masterful angles. It was an age of existentialism and psychoanalysis, by which the fears and neuroses bubbling in the psychic depths erupted to the fore and became time fodder for new literature, music, and art. Enter Schiele in the early years of the 20th century, a period of curiosity and daring experimentation that he would come to define. Schiele was born in the scenic Austrian town of Tulln in 1890, the lone son amongst his parents' three daughters. Elvira, who tragically died at the age of 10, Melanie, who became a recurring subject in Schiele's art, and Gertrude, or Gertie, the youngest Schiele, with whom the artist had a notably warm relationship, a little too warm by some accounts. His father Adolf was a railroad station master, and Schiele naturally developed a total obsession with trains, but his compulsion to draw them outweighed his desire to operate or engineer them, and the disappointed Adolf supposedly destroyed his son's sketchbooks in a fit of rage. Adolf's mental health was severely compromised by syphilis, and when he died from the sexually transmitted disease in 1904, Schiele's uncle Leopold became his guardian alongside his mother. As it so happened, Leopold was also in the locomotive biz, but he was slightly less resistant to his teenage nephew's ambition. Schiele was a poor student, but a promising artist, and in 1906, he presumably rode the rails to his chosen destination, Vienna, where at the age of 16, he was the youngest student accepted into the rigorous Academy of Fine Arts, allegedly securing a place over another aspiring Austrian artist named Adolf Hitler. Under the painter and professor Christian Griepenkurl, Schiele confirmed his disgust with the conservatism of the art establishment and sought external tutelage from his idol, the incomparable Gustav Klimt. Klimt's imposing femme fatales and risque sketches upended the sensibilities of Viennese society and significantly disrupted the tenets of traditional Austrian art. He heralded a national modernism by way of the Vienna Succession, which he co-founded a decade earlier in 1897. Guided by the motto, "To every age its art, to art its freedom," the successionists called for an uncensored creative atmosphere in which contemporary art and ideas could thrive.
Sorry about this.
Klimt was a hero to young radicals like Schiele, whom he welcomed as his protege in 1907. His celebration of the linear, elongated form likewise became a cornerstone of Schiele's practice, and Schiele's early work emanates with Klimt's profound influence. Fluid lines, sacred geometries, and whimsical patterned backdrops. But Klimt didn't simply fashion Schiele in his own image. He introduced Schiele to the work of free-thinking figures like Edvard Munch and Vincent van Gogh, to the Jugendstil, or youth style, a kind of German-born Art Nouveau, and the Wiener Werkstätte, or Viennese workshop, a prominent collective of progressive artists, designers, and artisans. As he matured, Schiele's vision became increasingly misaligned with the formalities espoused by the Academy. He acted out in class, compelling a frustrated Professor Griepenkurl to exclaim, "You, the devil shot you into my class." After a band of disillusioned students penned a letter of complaint accusing Griepenkurl of squashing the next generation of Austrian artists, Schiele dropped out in 1909. His rejection of academia coincided with his departure from pretty pleasantries and a pivot toward the raw, the grotesque, the expressionistic. Characterized by vivid colors, gestural sweeps, and severe geometric forms, Expressionism endeavored to encapsulate how it feels to exist and presented a new realism for the modern day. The style emerged circa 1905 and proliferated primarily throughout Germany until Schiele made it his own. It was also in 1909 that Schiele co-founded the New Art Group with Max Oppenheimer and Oskar Kokoschka, generally considered Schiele's primary Austrian expressionist counterpart slash rival, though there were others, like Richard Gerstel, who's just lesser known. The New Art Group exhibited vehemently, which amplified Schiele's place as the new face of Austrian modernism. He had a knack for networking, and with support from Klimt and his circle, Schiele became a known entity amongst his peers, collectors, critics, and the Viennese intelligentsia, who loved and loathed the writhing intensity of his work. I shall go so far, Schiele wrote, that people will be seized with terror at the sight of each of my works of, quote, living art. Schiele soon broke away from the New Art Group and set out on his own. He designed postcards for the Wiener Werkstätte and saw his first monograph printed in 1911. That same year, his first solo show was organized by the critic Arthur Roessler, who saw tremendous potential in Schiele. His career was on the ascent, but disaster loomed. In 1911, a 21-year-old Schiele met a 17-year-old Wally Neutzel, one of Klimt's models and suspected lovers. Neutzel became Schiele's muse, and the two ignited a relationship before moving to the small town of Klimau, where Schiele's mother was from. Their arrival was met with disdain from their neighbors, who disapproved of their unabashedly bohemian conduct and how cozy Schiele was with his underage subjects, who were clearly more than welcome to spend their days in Schiele's studio. When a model was caught posing nude for Schiele in public, things reached a fever pitch. Much like Klimt, a known Lothario in constant damage control for his steamy affairs, Schiele was brazenly enamored with women, a perhaps exploitative, albeit indelible aspect of his narrative, which has certainly prompted a reevaluation of his work in recent years. The art historian Albert Elson noted that Schiele's creative process was one of unaverted eye contact with his models, which accounts for those loose, almost intuitive sketches and the magnetic lure of his sitters, some scantily clad in select garments, as Schiele clearly had a thing for thigh highs, others completely nude.
Are you okay? I need to get out.
Schiele's women were scandalous enough, but the artist's risky habit of depicting children proved ruinous. Schiele and Neutzel were essentially pushed out of Klimau, and they relocated to Neulenbach, another small town where Schiele's dubious practices continued. On April 13, 1912, Schiele was arrested for kidnapping and seducing an underage girl. The minor in question was a local teenage runaway who briefly sought shelter with Schiele before returning to her family. The charges pressed by the girl's father were dropped due to insufficient evidence, but the police confiscated much of his work, and the judge handling his case determined that Schiele's lifestyle was criminally degenerate. He even burned one of Schiele's drawings in front of him. Schiele was imprisoned for immoral conduct, despite his stance that, quote, even the erotic work of art is sacred. During his 24 days in jail, Schiele produced drawings of claustrophobic rooms and banal objects. Thoroughly traumatized by the time he returned to Vienna, he ventured inward and painted his agony. He was changed by his experience and ruminated on sainthood, martyrdom, and piousness, on the virtues of nature, on solitude. After 1912, Schiele rarely portrayed children without the context of a maternal figure, but he was unrepentant in his figurative pursuits. He painted disconnected couples, one of whom appears sentient and engaged, the other lifeless like a doll. And he meditated on the theme of motherhood, possibly in light of his expecting sister Gertie, but they're haunting compositions. In 1915, Schiele decided to, quote, get married advantageously, and he did. He sort of left Neutzel, proposing that they continue seeing each other on the side, though much to his dismay, she refused, and he strategically wed a respectable young woman by the name of Edith Harms. Schiele's portraits of Harms are unlike his portraits of other women. They're sweet, demure, and very much clothed. They lack a certain electric charge, which might explain why Schiele turned his gaze toward Edith's sister, Adela, who later admitted to allowing a spicier relationship with Schiele than was appropriate. Just 4 days into his marriage to Edith, Schiele was drafted to serve in World War I. He was spared the front lines and free to continue with his art. He was even granted a studio space. For a time, he was put in charge of guarding Russian prisoners of war, some of whom he immortalized in sympathetic sketches. Come 1917, Schiele was transferred to a military supply depot in Vienna, sold 3 drawings to the director of the Staatsgalerie, which became the Belvedere Museum, and began to organize exhibitions both locally and around Europe. The commissions came in turn and accelerated the artist's personal renaissance. When Gustav Klimt died in 1918, a grieving Schiele became the crown jewel of Viennese modernism. The following month, he was honored with an exhibition at the Vienna Succession Building, where the main room was dedicated to his work and achieved significant acclaim. Among the pieces that sold was The Family, which Schiele curiously neither signed nor finished. The father figure is the artist, but the woman is not believed to be Edith, though it foreshadowed her pregnancy with the couple's first child in April 1918. Just 5 months later, Harms and her unborn baby were claimed by the 1918 flu pandemic. Schiele died just 3 days later as the Austro-Hungarian Empire fell. "The war is over, and I must go," he declared on his deathbed. "My paintings shall be shown in all the world's museums." Housing over 200 paintings, as well as drawings, prints, and writings, the Leopold Museum in Vienna claims the largest Schiele collection in the world. Schiele's unapologetic narcissism and brutal self-scrutiny elicited some truly iconic portraiture and made space for a new vision of humanism in art, uniquely realized by Francis Bacon, Lucian Freud, Tracy Emin, and of course the Expressionists in their many forms, from abstract to neo, who owe much to Schiele's brief but brilliant influence. Thanks for watching Several Circles. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos about the lives and work of extraordinary artists.
All right. So, wow, he accomplished a lot, but by the age of 28, huh?
Yeah, I was going to say he packed a lot in 28 years.
Yeah. And was not afraid to, shall we say, confront controversial controversy, shall we say? But
Yep, he was
whatever.
gutsy.
What are you gonna do? You know. Okay. So anyway, I love his figures, and we certainly could have done one of his figures, but I just wanted to draw attention to, and you know, I'm sure we will do one of his figures in another class. Maybe not this term, but you know, it's funny, even in his landscapes, you get a lot of the same theme going on. So he gets it in everything. He puts himself, whatever he's after, the stylistic aesthetic, whatever he's after, is evident in everything he paints, that means it knows no medium, right? No, it doesn't matter whether it's watercolor or oil or drawing, or it doesn't matter what the subject is. He manages to get his point across. And here we go. So kind of an eerie composition here. I'd say this hillside's almost halfway. Um, that's interesting.
Rob, do you call this a steel yard composition?
Kind of scary, huh? Yeah.
Steel yard composition. It's,
So I guess it's a little bit below. Wow.
yeah, I think it's interesting to see the contrast of three versus one bald trees. The three with leaves actually. This will be noticed. So there's a variety of leaves, obviously.
I know, huh? It's very eccentric. No question about it. Well, you're right. Yeah, it's just about dead center then, isn't it? Well, I could certainly square off my composition more here. Yeah. Okay, so then, if you want to find out where to put it, just looks like it's around there. He's got the tree here.
Rob, I think you need to move us back to your drawing. We're still seeing the artwork.
Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops.
Thanks.
There you go. Okay, there we go. So it is basically a square, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it's a square. I didn't get the find. Did I find it? Oh yeah, it's in the it's not going to give me the title. Here, way over here I have it. Here, 43 by 55. That's not what I'm seeing. Maybe they cropped into it. Huh. Well, that's what I'm. It does look a little. That's about a square, isn't it? Does it look a little bit more horizontal than it would? Something like that. I think maybe, because that doesn't look like 10 inches, 5 inches on both sides. That would be quite a bit more horizontal than vertical. I think they cropped into it a little bit. All right, let's see. Anyway. Oh. Oh, I cropped into it. There we go. I must have been. You guys are probably going, what is he on? No, I see now what I did wrong. Okay. I was cropped into it. I should have, on this one over here, I was totally cropped into it. It is a little more horizontal, and you're right. It is more, yeah, dead center, just below dead center. Oh, that was the problem. Okay. And so I'm gonna bring this over here. Sorry about that. I know, I was a little shocked. I thought there were 4 trees. And I'm drawing like 3.5 trees. You're probably going, what is he doing on the first one? Because I ended up like this. I missed this. I cropped into it. I didn't realize that You know, I just updated my computer to this Windows 11 to correct a problem I was having with Windows 10. And if you have Windows and haven't updated yours yet, I wouldn't update it. I would wait as long as you can. It's got problems. Anyway, okay. Let's get it.
Go to Apple. It's so much more user friendly.
Yeah, I know. But I'm all into this way, and Apple is way more, like double as expensive, and I have way more freedom on this. I can update, I can change hardware and software as I feel, as I see fit. Okay, let's see now. So at the top here, we've got a lot of like, I mean, I wouldn't know what blue that is it? It's probably cobalt, but you know what? Okay, I'm gonna use, I'm gonna combine the Prussian and the ultramarine. God, I got that out. I have to keep saying it over and over and over. I have so much harder time saying the names of paint than I do painting. You know, when I'm on my own, I never, like, I remember that. Occasionally I'll think about that. I go, you know, I really don't even think of the name of a paint. I never think of that. It never occurs to me. The name of the paint never comes in my head. I'm always just looking, I'll go around and I'll say, okay, yeah, I need that one because it's this color. I need that color. I need this color. But I never think of the word never comes into my head, like ultramarine blue. It's just I don't know, programming. So then, anyway, we're down here now, we're down to red lines, right? Tell me, it looks like CAD red to me. Just make sure we're muted.
Rob, I think you need to show us what you're painting. We're on the black and white.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gosh. There we go.
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you for. There we go. I can't always see. Like right now, I can't even see what I'm painting. Here we go. Too many windows open. Literally have about 6 windows open here. Okay, so there we go. Some of these lines, some of these. CAD red sun. Very sensitively painted. And then the blue mountains. I didn't even draw them in, I'll just paint them in. Noting that they get pretty light at the bottom. And then I'm seeing a blue outline around all of this, and even this. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm using ultramarine blue, excuse me. And there we go. Then we have like browns, and it looks to me like he actually mixes right on the canvas, and he's building up layers too, so it's a little different, but doesn't mean that we can't just match the colors we see. I'm seeing some yellows and oranges in this area. So I'm just using cad red, cad yellow. Do that. Lots of blue in there too. You get some violets in there too. So I'm seeing, right, some of the blue. And then he's introducing a little bit of magenta in there, it looks like. He's quite a good colorist. I mean, especially you can see that many of his other landscapes too, he can really has a nice way with color. Okay, a little bit bluer than this. There we go. These families of colors. And the camera just reads some of these colors are so dark. Okay, now we're getting into greens, and so I'm going to use cad red. I'm sorry, cad yellow and Prussian blue, and then there's some cad red in there too. So need a little bit more Prussian blue, especially down in this area. Let's get a little bit darker. There's reds in there too. A little bit of cad red here and there. He does get lighter on the bottom. Much lighter down here. He's just using, I think, cad yellow and cad red and some of these little nuanced colors within that green mass. And then we got very bluish in the tree trunks. So I'm going to combination of both blues. Here it looks like it gets a little bit lighter and actually draws a line around both sides. So something a little bit lighter like that, probably maybe that can reinforces the outside with a little bit of line. And so a couple of those in there. All right, this side, I see violets in there too. You get some orange in this tree right here. So cad red, cad yellow. And this guy right there. Notepad. So I'm going to use a touch of magenta in with this. By the way, if you used to use alizarin crimson, it's very easy to make. We basically made it when we made the trees. So magenta, ultramarine blue, and cad red, mix them all together. You'll get a pretty darn good alizarin crimson. And if you like it duller than that, add a touch of yellow to it. That's why I don't buy alizarin crimson anymore. All right, it looks to me like I see little dabs, but most of the red is down here. Whoops. And these lines. You can just throw in their sun. Maybe yours is a little brighter than that, so I'll go for the, maybe add a little bit of cad yellow to your cad red. Now this one works. Still a little dark. And just knowing how cameras read reds and how they print, I would venture to say the red would be a little bit darker than what you see up there. So that's just my opinion. And what he does with some of these lines here is he adds white and gets some tones with him. So he's getting all these little pinks in there too. So I can take a little white, add a little bit of red in there and get some of these little tones as well. And he's blending them out, so a lot of the lines seem a little blended. I bet you he goes back and forth with the lines really. Like maybe he'll take them out a little bit and then come back and reinforce them and take them out and reinforce them until he gets what he wants. I'm assuming that this is just white I'm using, and you know it's mixing. I'm getting little pinks because it's mixing with some of the reds. I might be getting little oranges too, because the red and yellow, and you know I might hit a couple in there just because that looks really a little bit dark. He's getting these neat little. There you go. Kind of tones in there. Some kind of yellowish things in there too. I'm mixing that yellowy orange with white. A little bit more of that opaqueness. All right, so I'll come back a little. Come back and just here and there reinforce that line. Well, if you love line, really steady Schiele. All right, and some of these blue ones now. No, I'm avoiding going right through the trees, and I shouldn't do that. I should go right through all the trees because who knows where I'm going to have little empty areas between the leaves. There we go. I tend to do that sometimes, and then I regret it later. Gotta paint them back in. Oh, that's blue. All right. And that's pretty good. Let's get some blue. I'm mixing the ultramarine with the Prussian and adding a little bit of white. Let's try just ultramarine here and white and see what I get. How is that? Huh. It's just ultramarine. If you need to fade it, it might be smart to just keep a wet brush. In our case, a damp brush, I should say, not really wet. There we go. Well, that's stuff. And if you need it's just a damp brush, very damp. I mean, I should say very dry, but just enough water to move the paint around. Still kind of dry brushish. Dry brushy. All right, there we go. That's just the same blue. I seem to be having better luck with just ultramarine blue and white. And then right through the trees. That's a little bit of light on me. It will dry light on you. Get that a little bit more deeper. There we go. Because it dried, I lost a lot of my saturation in the color. So I'm just coming back and hitting them again. And I want to do that before I put my trees on there, because once you put the trees on there, it's going to be kind of hard to come back into the sky. You can do it though, but it's just, you better to take a little time here and work that out. All right, there's another blue around here. All right. Got the feeling still my sun looks so dark. That's a little bit better. Right there. White. Now I've got my My mountains and what does he do? He lays his blue down and then he mixes red and yellow into it. So red, yellow, and blue. I mean, he's a master of these things. And he does it at will and then outlines them in this beautiful, very sensitive little line around the whole thing. In his own stylized little way. I mean, it's just, gosh, for people who are looking for their own style, it's really, he's just a one to look at. Definitely one to look at. I'm going to just put this blue down here. This is just a mixture of Prussian and ultramarine. Put that down there first. Here, let me zoom in on that for you. I see a lot of that in there. And then he comes in with, I'm going to try that. I mean, really, I think he's just using 3 colors in this painting. Oh, no, he's using a few more, yeah. For the magenta. He's using a lot of just red, yellow, and blue, though. So, the yellow, here's what I'm going to do. The cad yellow, mix a little bit of white in it. Got this yellow down there, cad yellow. And then it looks like he's mixing a touch of magenta and a touch of cadmium. And then he just mixes them right on the surface. He's mixing them right on there like this. That dark blue outline really plays with the drama of it too. All right. I think he does get a little bit bluer. Down there. Maybe a little bit fresher blue than that. So I'm going to use white and ultramarine blue. Down here toward the bottom, definitely using a lot of white. And then it looks to me like it's ultramarine blue that he's using for the really skinny line. I might be a little on the dark side there. Yeah, that's better. And very, very white in here. I'm just grabbing a whole bunch of white and turning it into the bottom of that. He really wanted to push that atmosphere. So yeah, to do an oil painting like this, it would take you have to wait for each layer to dry and then scumble over it. So usually what artists do is they have many paintings going in the studio at the same time. So while one's drying, they can go back into the other ones. So if you have to wait a week for one to dry, well, you're working on many paintings at the same time. Okay, something like that. And I could definitely thin out that line here and there. It's very thin. I mean, it's a big painting. All right. All right. So I'm going to come in here with a series of yellows, reds, and blues. I see cadmium yellow here, mixed with a little bit of cad red here. Definitely ultramarine blue. And a whole lot of it. In fact, it looks like he did the whole thing in blue first. And then let it dry and then he scumbled the other stuff over it. I mean, I can't really do exactly what he did, but I can give you a flavor of it. Let's see. I would say, let's just put the whole blue in there first. And he separates his little color fields with line. And he's got all kinds of like cityscapes and even marine like boatscapes. God, they're wonderful. His cityscapes are so original. I mean, I think he's the only one I can see that paints like him is Klimt, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's the blue. Gotta hit some in there. Okay. And now, even while that's damp, I can just start throwing in little yellow areas. Some redder areas. See some reds back here. Maybe not that red. No, just a lot of red and yellow and blue mixtures in there. Add a little white. You can get some of that opaque looking stuff. There we go. Occasionally you'll get the subtle green with the yellow and the red, yellow and blue mix. it really doesn't matter if you don't get the colors exactly right. But that you just understand kind of what he was after and his painting theme, which is what we're mainly doing in this class. Trying to understand the theme. So if you don't get every color just right, don't worry about it. I mean, it's a study. If you were to want to paint, let's say, in a similar theme on your own, you'd want to make a study like this. But let's say you wanted to paint in watercolor, but you wanted this, you might want to study like this and then work in a technique that you devised, like I'm doing, that's not exactly his technique, but and then use that in your own painting. Now I want to come by with that dark outline. And he does kind of fade it into this color field we just put in. So he puts down the line first. Oops, probably more in here, huh? And then I think he comes in and just kind of fades it into the landscape there. See, now it wouldn't matter what medium you're working in. That's something that you'd want to know. That he takes his lines and he doesn't always have a hard edge around his line. Sometimes he softens the line. He's quite picky, or I wouldn't say picky, aware of what his lines are doing. So these lines up here are very tonal, but still holding on to a line quality. And these right here are pretty linear. Back here, this one's very hard-edged, which is really interesting. These ones aren't, and then right up in the foreground, these are almost lost, but they're still there. He uses them. He uses them to divide up planes. All right, so for this big area here, I'm going to use a lot of Prussian blue and cad yellow. And touches of cad red. A little lighter on the bottom here. Good way to do it. Here. Adding a little bit of more Prussian blue to the darker areas here. And you know, if you wanted to look more Prussian blue like he did, he actually mixes a little bit of white in it and then puts it on after it's dry. So I just put that down there. It looks, what I'm looking at is like one value darker than that. Up there, it's like black. Just to let you know, I didn't put anywhere close to black on there. If I put something black next to it, see how light it looks? That's what I put in there. Okay, when I take this away, that's what it turns into. That's not what I put in. Every time I look up there, I'm like, that's not what I'm painting. Why not? And then this division between these two is really dramatic, but yeah, there, it's not as dramatic. So what can you do? It's just technology. All right, and I'm just gonna give myself some outlining here. Now, again, if your outlining isn't perfect, your contours aren't perfect, what matters is that you get the idea. Is that what he's doing here is he's taking each little plane, like he's got this little subtle plane in here, and he puts a little line in that. So if you don't get it perfect, it doesn't matter. Just note that using a line to divide planes is it's an old idea now. I mean, he did these in 1917. And Van Gogh was doing this a long time before that. It's traditional art now. When I was in school, they just said, learn all the academics you can learn here as much as you can, and then throw it all away when you get out. And take the first year when you leave Art Center and just concentrate on your own portfolio. You know, and some people would say, well, I came here to make a good portfolio, you know?
Did all teachers say that, or was only some?
Well, the teachers that I listened to.
Okay.
Everybody's going to have their group, you know. I mean, there's just different ways of thought, and I really thank goodness there was, because I got to Art Center and I just remember getting there the first term thinking, man, am I out of place here? Wow. Everybody's so logical, you know. And I said, am I in the room with a whole bunch of computer programmers here? I mean, I guess I can be logical, but I thought we were doing the, you know, we were going to get all creative and stuff. Where's the creativity? Come on, guys. Art Center has a reputation of being a very technical school. And I certainly needed it. I mean, it helped me. I had a lot of pretty good technique on my own, but it certainly helped me. I don't know if I would have done better in a more fine art oriented school. Maybe it helped me to find out what I was. Being right next to all these, I mean, amazing artists. But not, you know, it's funny. Once you get into art, you find out, not only have you opened up a whole new book, but there's all these different chapters, you know, all these different nuances to the different types of artists there are. It's just, here we go. Some reds and yellows in here. That's just cad red and cad yellow. Now that this is set up a little bit, I can just kind of scumble these in. And if I have to go back and redo a line and obliterate a line and come back into it, I'll do that. So yeah, at Art Center, they had fine artists, and then they had more painters, which are still fine artists, but a lot of fine artists by the 80s had given up painting. They were doing installation art, and so I still wanted to draw and paint. So they had a great little major there called illustration fine art, and that's what I got into. Because I was illustration, and then I found out, I really like the painting. There we go there. Now this background one really lightened up on me. All right, so I'll glaze that back down a little bit. As they do. Watercolor. Yeah, and I spent a long time after Art Center just painting in different styles. I didn't even work for a long time. I put my student loans on forbearance for a long time, and I just painted. And then I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm running out of money and someone's got to give here. So but I was doing illustration though. I was doing the Wall Street Journal. They would actually use watercolors at that time. I haven't seen them do it since. They just had an amazing art director, Claudia Waters, she loved watercolor. I mean, I got lucky. I really lucked out on that one. And you're probably going, I never seen any watercolors in a Wall Street Journal. It's always those little pen drawings, right? Those little stipple drawings. But for a while there, it was about 3 or 4 years. There we go. And all I was doing was portraits, so it really wasn't illustration. Sort of like fine art and illustration. I loved back then how they would combine the two. Even in magazines, my favorite artists were doing that. Okay. I think it's time to tree this thing out. Now that we've laid this foundation. I see a couple of little yellows down there in the bottom, but let's see. I'll just start getting something on there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with the right one. And he really does paint individual leaves, if you'll notice. Wow. I don't know if we have enough time to do all that. I'm going to use Prussian blue and the ultramarine together. And brings them together here. And it comes around. Yeah, beautiful little sticks out toward the edges. We'll try to get a couple of them in there. Not a huge amount of branches though. And he's got this little leaf shape, which I'm going to use magenta, cad red, and ultramarine blue. And let's see. You may want your leaf shape looks kind of like this. A lot of that. Kind of fat and square on the ends to something kind of skinny. So, and I'm working so small. Imagine this is what, 50 inches wide. That's 4.5 feet. So let's just try to and get your motor going here. I'm just using my little pencil drawing as my guide. Yeah, mix way too much of this color. You will use it. Because I'm already mixing myself a second batch. My paint is kind of soupy. It's thick. So I can get the opacity out of it. And I know there's a lot more individual leaves in this, but just noting that there are, he doesn't paint bundles of leaves. He paints individual leaves that become bundles. If that makes any sense. Or shall we say, batches of leaves? What do I usually call them? Clumps. Clumps is my word. he paints the little individual ones that become clumps, and it gives you a different look. They look a little picky, but they're beautiful. I'm not going to argue with it. They're gorgeous. And then occasionally I see the little stick. I don't even know. I mean, this liner brush can probably do it though. But I need this thing like needle sharp here. So I just sort of take the end of it and really get it. And then I'll put one of those like in some of these little bare areas where you would see one. Good enough. Let's move on to the next one here. Again, this one has a really dark outline to it, but a lighter. He almost kind of ghosts the color on there. Lighter, I don't like that. And then the outlines are more. You can see the outline more because it's lighter. Put it like that. Light it up. Then I'll come back and outline it a little bit more. Okay. Again, beautiful. He is such. See, this is why you got to get in and study him like this. He is such. He's got such a touch. I mean, it's nice to know about his life, but you don't learn this stuff until you get in there and really. I mean, I was picking it apart with my eyes, but it wasn't until I got there in there with the brush that I started realizing, oh. He does this and he does that. And that's a very. Sometimes he can get kind of brutal with his figures and contorted, and then at the same time he's got this really wonderful little touch to the way he paints a lot of these things. And the way he organizes his leaf shapes are very organic. Got a little bit dark on me. you know, get some of these lines too. If you can't get it with a brush, it might be worth it to just come around with a pen. That's a micron number 5 here. And just hit some line around the edge, just to get that Schiele look. Let me. Oh, you can just, like this one's in front of that one, maybe this one goes over there. Etc. I mean, might help you. Let's move on. Zoom out. These trees look a little redder than mine. I need more cat red. All right, so I mean, honestly, he has lines around every branch on this. That would take forever. I personally like to draw my branches with a brush. And I'm not going to argue with what he gets. He gets amazing stuff, so. And this other one over here is a little bit more orange. Make them a little bit lighter. Maybe I'll hit a little line around them if I need to. He's really a great draftsman of branches. But you're right, George, very much like a human limb. He isn't putting this much into all the others. But this particular tree, whoa, he has a it speaks to him. I'm not even going to try to copy every single. But he'll tend to arc each one. See how they arc? So throw it down. Like there's an arc. And another arc. And another one. And just, I got it thick on me. But he's a great shaper. Which leads me to believe that he didn't take each one of these branches. He didn't just throw them down there. He probably took some time on these. And may have redrawn them a couple of times. that's pretty good. I could really just copy that all day long. You know, it might behoove you to find an artist that you really like and do something like this where you're just copying like the way they would do tree branches. It'll all become part of your vocabulary, you know. And what happens is that you made the choice to copy that particular artist for some reason. You know, they speak to you, so listen to that. Oops. I get a little, there we go, a little bit smaller with my brush tree leaves.
Rob,
Yeah,
I associate him with sketching, and maybe that's because the first things I ever saw of his were sketches of human figures. But you know, even in the film, they showed him as a child sketching the trains in the neighborhood.
yeah, yeah.
So sketching really seems to be something that he loves.
Yes. You know, I was Vern Wilson was was the one who introduced me to Egon Schiele, and he was an amazing draftsman. And he really referred to Schiele as a draftsman. Not that he wasn't a painter too, no question, but he is the draftsman's draftsman in a lot of ways. Not about accuracy, but when you talk about what he does with all the advanced stuff, like distortions and contortions and how he plays with line and shape to move the eye around, all kinds of, I mean, he's on a very, very advanced level. That's true that train drawing really, I wonder how old he was when he did that. Okay, we got this other one here too. Blur. Oops, that's right there, huh? Hmm. A lot of leaves on this one. How red is it? Is it that red? It's pretty red. And some tree branches. Mine got a little close together. Maybe I made these branches too big. Okay. That was a lot of fun. So there's the idea. I don't know why it's reading this so bright up here. I don't know, because it is, mine is a lot darker than that. Huh. There it is. Not that dark, but it's not like that. Okay, dark on me. Okay, and light on me. Okay, how about 11:46? Okay. Try to get him in by 11:46 and I'll start critiquing. I'll take a little bit, oops. Here, I'm going to turn the recording off. So I'm going to make a little note for me to turn it back on.
Recording stopped.
There we go.
What do you use for the branches of the trees? Do you, I should know this, red, blue, yellow, red, blue, right? Oh, he's not there.
Recording in progress.
All right, we have two people. Oh, we got a couple more. All right, that's enough to get started. So what have we here?
Hi, it's Liz. When you were
Hi.
doing the color study, I decided to play with UPO. So the top one's on UPO paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bottom one is the one that I took longer on that I did on cold press.
How big is the top? How big are they? Are they the same size?
Yeah, they're both 9 by 12.
Wow. She did two in the time that it took me to do one.
No, because I did the top one while you were doing the color study. It was the same time.
Oh, okay.
And as you could tell, it wasn't really finished, but it was fun.
Well, you really got it.
I'm learning how to work a lot faster, thank you to you.
Well, good. Yeah, you can't. You know, we artists, we spend a lot of time worrying and overthinking. And you know, I that is one thing I had was some teachers that would I literally had teachers that would say, come on already, let's go. You know, they'd say things like I want you to get this study done in 5 minutes. Go. I'm like, well, I don't have my paints out yet. You'll figure it out. You know.
I had a teacher once who said, draw faster, you'll lose more weight.
You'll lose more. You know, but yeah, they make you just they make you figure out and find out how much you can actually do. And it turns out, wow, what I can do in 10 minutes, I had no idea I could do, you know.
Yeah, because the first one, I mean, there were issues with the water, the paint, whatever, I could go on and on. But the second one, I found that there were areas that I was overworking, overthinking, and I had to pull myself away and just go.
Yeah. So there's another, I mean, without studying any artist, you can learn those things, but it just so happened on this artist, you kind of didn't overwork too much though. I mean,
Cool.
and I like the, now here's a way, you know, you're still getting the Egon Schiele effect, even though you're doing a totally different technique. So the static lines and the kind of really long, elegant shapes and lines and kind of contorted too, just like his figures. And then on this one, still of very much the cold press kind of paper. You're getting the rag effects, which is good for doing leaves. And still you're understanding how he's using the lines. And then when he puts on the, you can see the leaf effect a little bit better here, how he's painting little individual leaves here, whereas up here it's harder because you just don't have the drying time, you know. But you're getting it here, yeah. You're getting it.
Got a little on the left too.
Yeah. One thing I would say is, you see how your strokes tend to,
I'm sorry?
your strokes tend to run in this direction.
Gotcha.
So I would mix them up a little bit more, that's all. Just for variation. All right. Thank you, Liz. Nice work.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, Daphne. You're on the cold press paper. All right. Working wet in the sky, getting some nice looking fades in there.
I finally switched to arches.
Yeah.
I had been thinking up till now that I'm not good enough for this expensive paper, but I decided to try it today.
Yeah, how'd it feel?
It felt like I had much more control, and it did feel like I could actually sort of do like what you were asking us to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so
So,
you need the everybody needs you need good paper. Actually, it works the other way around. When you're much better, when you're much more confident in everything, then you can go down to the lower quality stuff and see if you can make it work, if need be.
uh-huh.
Yeah, but it's better to start off with really good stuff. Actually, I think it's better to start off with bad stuff, and then that shows you how good the good stuff is. And then use the good stuff for a long time. And then when you feel really confident, go back down to some other stuff. And you may not even want to ever use it again, but I find that sometimes I can use lower quality stuff and get some pretty neat things for that kind of effect. But most of the time, I just use the good stuff.
Right.
You're getting really good effects here, really good fades. I'd say you got his line quality to you. I like how it's sharp and then faded and then sharp and then faded. That's what he does. It's kind of this lost in and out kind of thing.
Yeah.
All right. Nice looking leafage, and that's what he does with his leaves. He doesn't paint clumps. I'll show you other artists that do. They'll paint masses and then they'll sort of leaf it out. He paints individual leaves and they become clumps. So,
Right.
it's more meticulous but beautiful. They both are beautiful. Nice looking fades back here in these. The way you're outlining things, very nice. Any questions? Yeah.
Just the paper allowed me to outline things. I realized that the lousy paper I was using before, I could never outline.
But now you know why it's lousy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We're moving on. Yolanda. Hey. There you are.
Here I am.
All right.
So I did an experiment with these watercolor pens.
Okay.
And it's a disaster, but
you didn't like it?
No, total lack of control. And when I tried to fix errors with white, it too opaque and never again. But like you said before, the previous are beautiful. I really love their work. It was a good experience, and I used multimedia paper, so I didn't waste good paper. Not that this isn't good paper, but
yeah, I don't think that the watercolor paper would have taken that pen very well. It probably would have gone on pretty dry.
That's right. And then so it works. You could put it on a couple of strokes, but then you put some water in, and you could get some kind of an effect. But at least in this one, there were so many individual colors. I said, well, let me give it a try.
Yeah. Yeah, you can always use it with your brush.
Right. Which I
maybe
have.
on the leaves or something like that. But
exactly. So the leaves were very easy to do. And I have used it in other paintings. I think in the Clemente one, it was very useful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wanted to show you I was here. That was it.
Oh. Okay, well, I mean, you're struggling with a new medium, so that's always going to throw everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, but this wasn't worth using it again, or except for maybe with my nieces playing with it.
Yeah. Well, now you know.
You bet.
That's why you do these things.
That's what I wanted to share with everybody.
It's an experiment.
Yep.
And it's not bad. I mean, not bad at all. You're catching on a lot of his linear things, especially like this stuff right in here, and even in your trees, especially this one right here. And he really gets into this shape of them too. So you'll want to, if you want to mess around with it more, I would, you see how this one kind of comes into like a pear shape or a
Right.
kind of contain. I would take a few on the out, because it is that shape. A few more on the outlines, I could have done a few more too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll probably play with this a little bit more.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Yolanda and Cynthia. Ooh. Now, what kind of paper you like a hot press or? Are you there?
Yes.
There you are.
Yes, it's a hot press.
Yeah, because you're getting more of the puddly effects.
Yeah.
But and this is exactly what he's doing. This thick dry brushy thing. So you got yours to dry nice and dry before you hit those on it. That was good. I'd say you got these branch effects really well. Good looking trees. Maybe occasionally darker in some areas. These are great, the way you did all this at the top. If you ever look at his watercolors too, he's a great watercolorist. Really, really shows off the qualities of the medium. Okay. I mean, it all looks really good. Maybe the value of these greens could be a little bit darker.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
let's
need to
make
get
sure
new
we're all
paper.
muted. Everybody, let's make sure we're muted. Okay.
I just need to get new paper. Better paper.
You think the paper was a problem?
In terms of, part of it.
Oh,
That's 25% cotton.
yeah, but I mean, for what we're doing on this,
Yeah.
it seems to be okay.
Yeah.
I think I would just go a little darker with this, with your blue greens here a little bit.
Mhm.
But I mean, you're not getting the same kind of basic watercolor effects as you would if you were on cold press paper, but I think it's fine for what you're doing. Nice looking trees too. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, I mean, I saw it as more yellowish, so I put a wash of yellow.
Yeah, it really does get
Underneath.
yellow up there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That seemed to
Yeah.
help me too. I did the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to get the colors, I guess.
It's good. It's a good copy. I mean, it's a good study, I should say. Especially this tree right here. I'll have this one. He really got his tortured tree there. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's Gail. Good colors. Good looking painting, Gail. That's big. How big you do this one?
9 by 12.
Oh, okay. Not too big. Oh, sorry. Gotta go back here and hit it again. There we go. All right. Good looking colors. I mean, all your colors and values look great. The line work looks great. Maybe some redder things in the sky here. I don't know if you wanted to touch some of those reds a little bit more. I mean, that's something small, but
Yeah, I use pastel pencils. I was using that mineral paper and it kind of faded away.
oh, this is mineral paper?
Yeah.
Wow. I would have thought it'd be more, puddly than this. It must have worked thick, huh?
Pretty much dry brush.
Yeah. Very, very dry. Yeah. Great looking sky, good looking trees. Yeah. That's how he does them. And then look at his leaf shape. I notice he really concentrated on the shape of these leaves, because each individual leaf is very, very tuned into what kind of tree that was. I noticed. I mean, I couldn't get that shape at this scale. If I had a bigger a bigger scale, I think I could get the shape better, but yeah, he really put a lot of effort into that. And then occasionally, I notice a lot of your, the twigs in the trees are very similar in size. So I might make a thick one here and there, just a thick one here and there, like this one. A couple more, like
Okay.
maybe 2 or 3 more. Just to, I mean, it's a small thing, I know, but it looks to me like this one comes down a little further. If you care to do that, maybe down to here. I mean,
Oh, right.
not much to say about it because it's really good. Especially, that's the test right there. Look how well that reads. That really stands out. Great looking colors. All right, any questions? Any more
No,
thoughts?
thank you, Rob.
Okay. Thank you, Gail. It's a nice piece. We got Henry here. Oh, is this your? Okay, 2 different ones. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah, look at these leaf shapes. Is this a Sumi technique, the way you're doing these leaf shapes?
This is what we call the double line leaves. It's a classical style in the textbook called Mustard Seeds Garden Manual of Painting. Like you said, there are vocabularies of trees and rocks. It's translated as style types, or in modern terms, it's called fractal elements, fractal design elements.
Fractal elements. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I see. I think I was so amazed by how he applies the fractal elements to Western painting, to oil painting.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you can also see this in like those classical landscape painting. The trees are done with this fractal elements. With this, the bitmap or the math method, they use this in computer language to draw up a natural growth fractal pattern, like tree, without duplicating. I mean, by duplicating the elements. Not symmetrically or like a regular pattern, right? So it saves a lot of bitmaps. That's what they developed. This I bought this. Do you know the Fractal Painter program? It was bought by Photoshop, I think, Adobe. Now it's part of Adobe. But I used to play with those. So I can create a little pattern like a leaf. Group or cluster, and then I can use the hose to spray the whole tree just like a spray, like air kind of.
I have
that was fun.
Photoshop,
I was the first user of a Practical Design Painter software. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what my first.
That would have been like in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it's late 90s, and then I landed on the work in Colorado Springs to use this program to draw things. Yeah. And it's called fractal design. Yeah. So I think that's the name for this kind of.
Great, man! You got this really great looking branch shapes here. These are fantastic.
Thank you. I was teaching this classical style, the Song Dynasty landscape masters, and I can see here it's so similar to that, the angular tree branches.
Yeah, I'll bet you he studied like that. I'm sure he studied those. Well, I know because
it's in nature.
If Van Gogh was one of his great masters, and I am sure that Klimt was a student of Eastern art as well.
Oh yeah, they mentioned he was introduced to Van Gogh by Klimt.
Wow. Well, this is great looking color, great looking drawing.
Thank
And
you.
it's nice that you give it that little Sumi twist to it. I like how you introduce those things. Really great conversation and really a great, really interesting study. How you merge the two and come up with a study, yet it has a certain flavor to it.
Thank you.
Everybody does. So
It's very
everybody
inspiring.
brings their own bag of, culture and personality and everything to it. That's what makes art so rich.
Yeah, I think it certainly crossed lots of borders, this painting.
It's a beauty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great selection again. I really like that.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. Thank you, Henry. And we'll move on to Kim. All right, Kim.